everybody, it's been a while, hey? Anyway, I'm back with you guys, and today I'm featuring a very good friend of mine, Dr. Ndlovu. Hlumani, say hi to my family.
Hi, family.
So guys, Hlumani is a very good friend of mine who is also very smart.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so today we'll be unpacking education and its importance, especially in our country during these current times. So I decided to discuss this topic with Hlumani as he is an academia, a very good one at that. So far he's produced a number of good students, and also he's a very well published author. So we're just gonna have that conversation with him and just try to understand his journey, his inspirations, what pushed him to get to this point of like his career in the academic field. So first thing that I'd like to know is what does education really mean to you?
Yeah, it's a difficult question, really, to answer. But I guess, I mean, in a simple term, what I would say it means to me, it just means an opportunity, really. An opportunity, one to open your mind to, the unknown. It's an opportunity to, advance in knowledge, in understanding. Not only understanding, yourself, but understanding the world and how you can, fit in the world as a person. So that's really what education means to me. It's just, an avenue to unlock your mind to the possibility that exists in the world.
That's an actually interesting way to look at it. Do you think it is really a key to success for a black child, especially just like looking at our country, like at this current moment, just focusing on that? Do you think it's really a key to success for a black child, seeing, for instance, how the youth unemployment rate has like last year shoot up to like over 50%, and now we've seen like there is like an increasing number of like graduates, young ones at that, like heading to the streets with placards begging for jobs. Do you think like that phrase still really like hold that weight in the current times, especially for like graduates or people who went out there to seek education with the hope that they will get that key to success to open them up to whatever opportunities and the dreams that they will be having at that moment when they decide to take that journey?
Sure. Do I think it's a key to success? I think it depends on the person, right? The problem in South Africa is that we tell a single story, right? So we want to push everyone to one avenue. We just say, go to school, get good grades, go to university. But then is that applicable to every person? I think not, right? So we're not creating multiple avenues for people to succeed. We're pushing one narrative, and that narrative is school, university, success, right? And in that way, we lock out a majority of young people who are unable to access university for a number of reasons, right? Like, for instance, the majority of, learners don't come in, affluent schools, don't come from good schools, actually come from poor schools in, peri-urban/rural areas. And we know the type of education that is received there, right? And we know the type of, pass rates that are attained in such, situations. So now with those kids, basically what we are doing is we're looking for an exception than the norm, right? The exceptions are people like myself who were able to make it out of a royal school and get to university, right? And that is actually more by chance than by design, right? And it's like really getting those few unpolished rough diamonds, and through time, we get polished and we shine. And this is when then you see us as places like UCT, and we are doing well and we are advancing our careers.
On that, sorry, just to cut you there.
Sure.
Like you said that, like, you just made yourself an example of like one of those learners that came from like those rural schools, and you still managed to make it to like such prestigious institution like UCT.
Sure.
And now like you've like made it like so well for yourself. You literally like made your name known and stuff. Like, what pushed you, given how your circumstances were back then, like the school that you were attending back then, did you really see yourself going to be where you are today? And what was like the motivation behind you pushing through all those like odds that were against you?
Yeah, sure. I think that there are people who are just born intrinsically with the ability to overcome challenges, right? And I think in psychology they call it resilience. Like there are people who are just naturally resilient. So you can throw them in whatever situation, they'll be able to swim and make it to the other side, right? And that's probably what I would say I am, because even back then when, at home things were tough, I that for me was the motivation, right? So I was looking at the situation at home and saying, how do I contribute in making this better, right? So from a young age, I knew that, I want to make a change at home, so that, my siblings and, my nephews and nieces in the future, they have more options, and they have a much more easier life than probably what I had. And that really is a motivation. And I think this is true for most people who have made it out of those environments, is that the motivation comes from what you are encountering,
your current
right?
situation.
Whether at home, you have to walk long distances to school, whether you have 1 or 2 meals a day, whether you're eating the same thing every day, whatever strife that is happening at home in your environment is what is going to inspire you and motivate you to want to do better, right? And that for me was my motivation, was just seeing how things are at home and saying I want to do better. And the critical part was that I did not do it by myself. So there was a lot of people who saw the potential, who believed in me at a young age, that then gave me confidence to believe in myself, right? And because, when you have elders, older people who believe in you as a child, it creates this desire to want to do more, right? So it almost becomes some kind of positive affirmation that then, will entrench that, desire to do better and better and better and better and better. And this is how I was able to then, in school do well, right? Wow. Because if I look at my first 2 years in primary school, I was an average student. I was like in number 30, number 20 something in my class.
For
right?
real?
In primary school. I actually failed.
Sorry, this is the guy who has a cum laude in all his degrees up to PhD. Okay, PhD doesn't count because they don't do the cum laude, but up to masters.
Yeah,
from undergrad. Imagine.
Yeah, but I failed. Actually, I failed the first grade mid-year. I actually failed.
What?
And I went home. I remember, and you show your marks to your parents, of course. And actually, I remember people, laughing at me. And I didn't like that. When you being teased by your peers because you did not do well. And at the time I was young, because I went to school when I was 5. And I didn't like that feeling of failure, right? So at the end of the year, I barely made it through. And I went to the second grade. And then in the second grade, I had a teacher who just took a liking to me. So what she will do is every Friday, I will visit the family and just spend time with the kids, and then they'll help me with maths and English. Every weekend I'll go to her house. And from there, my marks just started picking up and improving. And then I got to grade 3. And then now I was like competing for the first position. And back then, during our time, because we used to do the top 10, in an assembly school. So it was a big thing. Like, this is where you get your fame, really, and you get your stripes as a student to say academically you're doing well. And this is where now I was starting to be number one, number two. And then from then on, I think until I got to matric, I was really like number one and number two in my class. But that interest came from, this, or the performance came from this teacher who took a liking to me and was supportive. And then there's a number of teachers along the way, and just members of the community who were keen, and that kind of kept me disciplined. It kept me out of, trouble, because I was like, I can't afford to disappoint those people who were there encouraging, they were happy when I did well and all the stuff. So it really goes to show and prove that African, proverb that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah. And which is like something that continued even in like after you were done with high school, because from like the journey that you told me when you got to UCT, you had like a similar support structure that kind of like pushed you to really like get where you are right now. So from like your experience and what I'm gathering is that it doesn't just take just passing and going to varsity, getting your degree and getting a job. To really succeed, it also takes a very good support structure.
Of course, yeah.
And a character, because like you can have all these resources, you can have these people like supporting you, but if your character it's not really, you're not determined to do whatever, you get to varsity, back at home you're struggling, you get to varsity, you relax, you have all this nice stuff, and you forget that, hey, this is the situation back at home, and I need to really push to make it better so that I make things or I help back at home someday, So from what I'm gathering, it's that, which is also like what I also like went through, like how I pushed to this point was because of like the support structure, the people that believed in me, like the teachers in high school, from primary through high school, and also just I had like an amazing honors supervisor while I was still in like Northwest University, and he's the one who actually encouraged me that like go to UCT, because I feel like those places like really like limiting your potential. And with that being taking that chance, I'll say I really got lucky, because getting here to like Cape Town, I also like got like a similar supervisor who believed in my potential, and he's been incredibly amazing, because he was like my supervisor for my master's, and I just decided to continue with him for my PhD. And the other day I once wrote a tweet, I was like, I don't think really like my academic journey to this point would have been this bearable if it wasn't for the support structure that I have. Like having that supervisor in mind, that like the way he is so supportive, even sometimes when I feel like giving up, he'll be like, no, you got this, the way he's always like saying all these encouraging words. So like support is really important. Even like when you are there at home, you've got your degree and you're struggling, that support structure, it's still like very important, where you have people like railing behind you that, hey, we know it's difficult to like find that job, but just keep pushing, don't give up and stuff. I feel like that plays a very important role, because most graduates end up like just giving up on life and just like feeling like education is really not it, because of that lack of support sometimes from home. Now like the family is just pressurizing you. Not all families are like that, but then there are those ones. Some we don't really blame them because of the situation, and you are their only hope that, okay, this person is gonna get us out of this situation that we've been in for the longest time. But then sometimes it just brings like unnecessary pressure, because now you don't have that support, like that patience from your family to like help you to keep pushing to like look for that job opportunity or whatever. So I kind of like believe that it's one of the reasons that ends up making a lot of like youth out there give up on education and sometimes taking shortcuts that some ends up just like destroying their lives because they just feel like I'm gonna do this and now it's like I'm gonna always be indebted to my family because they invested so much in my education. Now I can't even like pay that back through having a job or whatever. So it's kind of like a tricky thing, but I personally still believe that it can still be a key to success.
Yeah, sure, but maybe just
Based on
to touch a little bit on what you said about support, because I think we underestimate how critical it is for the success of anyone, right? Like we can look at support, in terms of how we as a black community invest in our schools, right? For instance, is growing up, for instance, myself, my parents never really took much of an interest in going to my school to really, see how I was doing, except when there was a meeting, right? Then, my mother would try and go. But beyond that, in terms of the activities in school, just being around the school overall in our communities, particularly in rural areas, this is lacking, right? And what that does is that it creates a space for a child to see that no one cares about what I'm doing in school, so why should I put an extra effort? Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you construct our behavior in our schools, in the townships and in the rural schools, and then you compare that with our behavior, like with our current generation, even our parents who had kids going to model C schools or to private schools, is that we invest the time and the energy to go to the schools and attend meetings, follow up, engage with teachers, right? And that's the difference, right? So it just shows you how support will, in a way, play a role in, producing different outcomes in different situations. On one end is you have parents who are engaged, they follow up, they check on their children, they check on the teachers, they invest in the school, they donate to the school, they really are part of, they are what you call stakeholders. And you can see the success. And then on the other side is, we have no participation from parents because for a number of reasons, right? One is maybe they're illiterate. Maybe, they are at work because they are working in 9 to 5. They have to wake up at 3 o'clock. They need to come back at 9 p.m. So they're not available to, follow up with the child and see how the child is doing in school. Then that, lack of support has a consequence, and the consequence is poor outcomes, right? So that's one aspect. And this is why us as a black community, we need to be closer to our schools, right? We need to engage with the teachers, the principals, and invest energy, time mostly, and money as well in uplifting our schools. And you'll see the performance will change, right? And then now when you're talking about as a grown-up and you're at varsity, or you're a graduate and just finished, university, even then, support is still critical, right? Because you need support from your peers at varsity as you are doing the work, right? Support in the sense that, you may be struggling with the work. You need friends who are going to mentor you, going to tutor you on the work. You need friends who are going to tutor you about adapting to university, because the reason why, in my view, most people actually fail at varsity, not because they are stupid, right? One is either the circumstances, like whether maybe there's financial problems, there's mental health problems, or there's problems at home, that then they will have an issue of performance. But then the key thing is adapting to the life at university. How do you balance your time? How do you balance the fact that now there's no teacher who's going to ask you whether you did the homework or whether you did your readings or whether you did anything? Now you are in charge of your own schedule. Not only of your own schedule in terms of your schoolwork, but also in terms of your time. When do you sleep? When do you wake up? What do you do when? Do
How
you
do you
go
spend
to
your
school?
time?
All those things, right? So now you really are becoming an adult and you are independent. You have a responsibility on your life. If you don't have friends who are prepared to tell you the uncomfortable truth when you are straying. I mean, I remember I had many encounters with friends who, when they saw that my life was going out of control, they'll pull me back and say, "Hey, Kachen, what's happening? Why are you not doing this? Why are you doing that?" And that forces you to pause and reflect and then, evaluate and take a different course of action if you feel like that's what we want to do. And then the other key part is we run away from each other when we finish, right? Because for some reason, there is this thing that we feel like we need to compete. Who gets the job first? Who then gets to buy the big car first? Who has the fancy, house, car, clothes, whatever, which is stupid in my view, right?
It is.
Because we need to be lifting each other up. It's like, what the late Prof. Mayosi will say is lift as you rise, right? And for us as black people, we feel ashamed when we are sitting in a boardroom. We feel like we need to close the door. Well, not everyone, I must qualify some people, because sometimes we tend to be very critical on ourselves as well, which is another pathology that we need to talk about. But it's like when you are the person in the boardroom, you need to open the door as wide as you can and open up for more people to come in, right? So there's nothing wrong in recommending your friend for a job. In fact, you should do more of that, right? Yeah. Because ultimately is you are going to get an opportunity because someone, knows about your skills, knows that you have a capacity to deliver, and they recommend you for a particular job or a service or a contract, right?
But then the problem is, like the other time I was talking to this other friend of mine, like the problem is the reason why, like, majority of us as black people, we don't really like advance much in life. It's because instead of seeing each other as family, we see each other as competitors. Like, if I plug Hlumani about this job, what if he's gonna actually like do better than me or make it better in life? I feel like we look at those kind of things at competition first. When you think of like helping a brother out, helping a sister out, you just like, you don't even think about the current circumstance that this will actually help this person get out of the current situation that she is in. Yeah. You're already just like looking 10 years down the line that you're imagine now he'll be like having this or that, which might even be better than what I have, which I believe it's one of the things that hold us back as like black community.
Yeah, but that's why we need to have that bigger picture thinking, right? It's like, are we prepared as a current generation to plant the seeds, and plant trees whose shade we will never be able to enjoy, right? Because when you have that mentality that, if I bring you in to the space, and you are able to multiply what I've started, then I also win, right? And this is how I, approach supervising and mentoring students, is that I am a vessel and I'm going to transmit, as much of my knowledge as I can to the next person. And I don't need to dim my students' light for mine to shine. Yeah. Because if they leave my tutelage and they go elsewhere and they shine, that amplifies my own spotlight, because the people who go and look back and say, you were well trained. Who was your mentor? Oh, my mentor was Hlumani. And then more people are going to come to me and say, hey, Hlumani, we see your students are quality. Can we have more? Right? That's how life works, is that we should support, and for as long as we support with good intention, that support will amplify and should come back to us. Some people say it's karma, really, right? The good you give to the world, it comes back in some shape or form, right? So it shouldn't be about you. It shouldn't be about you holding the spotlight, but it's about, how do I amplify my spotlight?
It has to be bigger than you.
Exactly. And it's really what they say, right? It's as if a candle, right? You use a candle to light another candle. The candle that you use, does not lose its light, right? But then when you have 10 candles in a dark room, the light is even brighter. So that's really should be our thinking, is I should not be the only candle in the room, but then how do I light more candles so that, the light is amplified? And you can only do that by bringing more people who are like you, who think like you in a space.
You are right, like the support structure and also like the company that you keep, because I believe that some of these graduates, that some go out there with placards on the streets begging for jobs. You'll find that some kept companies, like some friends that have made it, like after graduation, they fortunately made it. And unfortunately, you'll find that some of those friends are just too selfish enough to like help that one struggling friend that they had back in varsity to also get into the industry. And I believe that is one of the things that is really holding us back. And also like the whole the company that you keep as well, like that's also what determines whether you're gonna make it on time or you're really gonna forfeit that great opportunity that you had to have like push through education and make something out of it. Because like fortunately for me, there was some time where I kind of almost got derailed because of like some companies that I kept along the way. But likely I had also some good friends which also like helped or like won me over the bad one, whereby they were like, okay, no, this is not right. And even when I came here to Cape Town, I was all alone. I didn't know anyone. I was like, will I make it? Also, like, it's that pressure that your UCT is like a big deal. Now you have to keep up. Even if like you felt like you were smart from your previous varsity, now you just feel like I need to. But fortunately, I met like good like mentors and supervisors, and I also like managed to also like make good friends like you. And I also like I always look at your work ethic and be like, I really need to push. And also the kind of conversations that we have sometimes and how you encourage me like, no, do this and do that, you know, that kind of thing. So it's actually really important. It's not even just about like family and stuff, but also like the friends that you make along the way is really what's going to determine how far you're going to get in life.
No, for sure. I mean, that's what they always say, that if you want to go, you know, far, right? Like if you really want to go very far, then you need to have a collective, right? But then if you just want to go like not so far, then you can really go alone. But if you really want to go a long distance, then you need to bring people along. Like I look at my own journey. Like if I was to, at every milestone that I've achieved in my life, there's a group of friends who are behind me supporting, right? Like for instance, when I was looking for a job, you know, it's friends who came to me and say, hey, they to me and, you know, said, hey, there is this advert, you know, at UCT and they're looking for a lecturer and that we think it's going to be perfect, right? So then the friends not only just, you know, recommend for you to apply, but they, you know, give their time to assist you with that process. You know, in terms of like revamping your CV, you know, writing your motivation, they'll check, you know, does it make sense? Does it capture the essence of the, you know, the job requirements and all the stuff. And also when you get shortlisted, right, the friends will make sure that they prepare you for the interview, right? And I mean, I remember, I you know, there's a friend of mine who will say, because we had to give a lecture, right, and then be interviewed for the interview. And I had to practice for an hour every day for a week leading up to my interview, right? To a point where what he will say is, if you get to the interview and the PowerPoint does not work, it should not be a stumbling block for you to present to your lecture, right? So you go there, you know all the slides automatically, that even if you don't look at the board, you can just, you know it.
What to do.
And that's a level of preparation that one needs to succeed. And now that those, you know, habits is something that now we practice as a group of friends. That all my friends who now work in academia, we all sat down as a collective and we help each other through, you know, applying, you know, preparing for interviews. And that's really to make sure that we get as many black people in the spaces as possible. Because this is our area of expertise, right? We have experience. I mean, I've been in installation panels at UCT for many jobs. So I have experience. I know what kind of questions, I mean, they ask. I know what kind of attributes they're looking for. So someone can say, hey, I saw a job advert at University of Pretoria for a lecturer in physiology. Can you assist me, right? And we do that. And that should be what we do as a norm. It should not be an exception. Every person who has an expertise needs to see, how do I take this expertise and amplify it and give to as many people as I can. Hence why giving back is critical, right? Going back to the village, going back to the townships and engaging with, you know, young black people. Because the biggest problem that we have in our community is that the best people that we produce they basically move out of where they were produced. So there's a big problem of brain drain that happens in the villages, that happens in the township. And the only time that we go back to those communities is when we have material, possessions, and we go there to flex. Not necessarily we go there to equip and to transfer the skills.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to change. Is how do we maintain these successful individuals within the community, so that the kid who's growing up and at home there is no one who's going to university can see Uncle Hlumane next door, and they see the kind of life you lead. They see how you behave, how you hold yourself in the community, right?
Give back to the community.
And they say, well, I want to be like that guy, right? Because they see that people respect you, not because you are the richest person in the neighborhood, but because of who you are, of how you basically, behave and how you treat people.
And how you give him back also to the community.
Exactly. So we need to close that, right? So like now, I mean, I'm from KZN, I live in Cape Town. But then when I'm back home, what do I do, right? You go back home and most, guys will stay wherever they stay. And when they go to maybe the local stores, they don't talk to, the local guys with respect. You want to claim some kind of hierarchy that you've made it. I think we need to learn to be humble, and I think we need to go there and recognize that I was lucky. It's not that because, I made it out because I was special. No, it was just really luck. And with the recognition, then I see that I have a responsibility to give back.
True.
And to engage people and to make people want to also improve their lives, right? And that's how we're going to amplify change, at least in this country.
Yeah.
And how we can make education fashionable and make education be seen really as an avenue that one can use to advance themselves. But as I was saying when you were asking me the first question, right, it is because I was trying to talk about this, this single story really, where we're only focusing on education. And I think education is critical. But even more, what is more important is how do we unlock the imagination of people, right? Because I think it's Einstein or someone who basically says that imagination is powerful, and if you have knowledge and you are unable to practice, you are unable to use that knowledge in a practical way, it's as good as useless. Right.
True.
So if we're able to unlock the imagination of people wherever they are, right, and then we get them to be able to capitalize on whatever ideas they come with, right, to take the idea and put it into and test it and act on that idea, people will be successful, right? Because guys will be able to start their own shops. They'll be able to design their own clothes. They'll be able to do whatever that they feel like they want to do.
Not just limit themselves to that one objective, that one degree that they obtained and stuff. So, lastly, it is like a handful, guys. So, like one last thing I wanted to ask you is that for that fellow young brethren out there who has like a fair share of like hardships in life, who is starting to doubt this phrase that education is really a key to success, like as a successful like academic who has like found true success through education and made well for yourself because of education, what can you say to them as like a form of like encouragement? Like it's really not the end of, and I liked what you said about like unlocking the mind and stuff, because like you really open yourself to like a lot of like possibilities that if this is the one thing I like about us like scientists, like being in the science. Personally for me, science like taught me that not just when I'm in the lab, but that skill that I learned in the lab like kind of helped me to also like apply it on life, that in life that if something is not working, if this solution, if this reagent is not working, if this kind of like protocol that you are using for this particular experiment is not working, then you need to tweak something, you need to change something. Either you change that protocol, or you change that reagent, or you change whatever instrument, you do things like in a different way. You get what I'm saying? So like, I feel like this is the kind of thinking that we also need to apply in life, that if this way that you've been doing things is not working, then try something else. Don't just try to keep like pushing this, like open yourself up to like more things to try out. Like ways to just like find a way to that success.
I think, I think success is really a journey. It's not a destination. And really every day when you are able to do the things that you set out to do, I think to me that's success, right? Because that's really how you make progress. Is incremental, consistent action on a daily basis that will then give rise to you becoming a doctor, or you becoming a billionaire if that's your desire, or you becoming the best musician, right? It's just about that focus, determination, consistency, day in and day out, that will yield that particular outcome. To a person who right now is struggling and they're looking for how to progress and how to lift themselves out of wherever they could be. One thing for me, I would say, and just learning from this last year where we had the pandemic, and we really had to reset our priorities. We had to reset what we value in life, right? I would say that one is, because you still have your health, then you are okay, right? I think being healthy is a start. And two is the fact that you are thinking about where you are, and you are reflecting about where you are, and you are looking at avenues on how to get out. You're already now beginning the process of changing your life, right? Because you can never change something that you don't see. Like if someone is unemployed and they are defeated and they've given up, there's not much you can do for them. But then if they're unemployed, but then they are thinking about possibilities of, moving out of that particular situation, then that person can be helped. Because the question then what, opportunities can you open up for them, or what skills can you give them that can then enable them to, move forward.
Keep pushing.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, is keeping the hope alive, right? And I think last year was able to teach us, that sometimes we need to appreciate the fact that we are living, right? And our families are there, and everyone is healthy, right? Then the next thing is looking within yourself and looking within your community. What is there, what is not there, and how can you play your part in making sure that what is not there, you're able to bring it to the community, right? Of course, depending on demand. And that's really is a critical part that I think we are missing as the black community in this country. This ability to make something out of nothing, really. And really just being hustlers. I think there was a generation, I think the generation of our mothers and our ancestors, they were oppressed, right? They were denied opportunities that, to an extent, things have changed. But then I think our generation is waiting for employment. This is why, for me, I always say to myself, I am not successful until I'm able to control my time. Now, with academia, of course, we're blessed because we don't really have someone who says clock in and clock out, right? At least for me, I don't have that, right? So it's not as bad, but still, I still get a salary from someone. Until I get to a point where I fully control my time, I fully control what I do when I do it, then I can say I'm successful, right? So now, for a person who's at home, unemployed, they have an opportunity to employ themselves. We don't say this enough, and we don't have many examples of people who have done that. Because look at the guys who are billionaires now. Like, for instance, you can look at our current president, right? He did not build anything. He did not create value, right? He was given ownership or part ownership in shares in companies. But there's nothing that you can say that there was nothing and he built it from the ground up, right? And how many of the guys do you know who've done that, right? But if you look at the times of apartheid, there were guys who were running, successful businesses. Now that, spirit seems to have disappeared as soon as we got freedom. And this is really what we need to start to re-inculcate and build in our children and build in our communities. That basically you are that opportunity that you are waiting for.
Yeah,
and you
like
can create it yourself and you can make it happen. Now then the government needs to come into play by creating support systems, how to access funding, how to try and reduce the red tape in terms of opening businesses, to provide training opportunities, to have access to mentors. These are the things that we need above and beyond the guys who are going to go into university and go into the mainstream economy, and most of us are working for what businesses, right? So you're working in spaces where, you're a glorified manager with no real power. I mean, that's not really progress.
It's actually happening quite a lot.
And ultimately, the person who has a say is the person who has an owner, right? So I think we need to change
that.
The power dynamics. We need to change the interactions, and we need to spread the message that there's multiple ways of succeeding in life, and education is just one avenue. There are so many other avenues that we need to tap into, right? We have not even spoken about how to groom talent, right? How to use sports, entertainment as avenues for success. And we see a lot of people who are superstars who make a lot of money through talent. How many kids in villages, in townships, are struggling and they have talent, right?
Yeah, true.
So it's a lot, and I think education really is a catalyst to some of these things, right? We can take someone who has a business and they're doing well with education, with mentorship, they'll be able to, supercharge that business, really move it from, this level to the next level. But education on its own is just not, that be all and end all type thing. And we need to give young people, multiple avenues and then support them equally.
Anyway, that was a mouthful, guys. Thank you so much, friend. I hope that this topic, whatever that we unpacked, might be of any help or any encouragement to someone out there. Please pass it on, share if you believe that there could be someone that this might be of great help to. Otherwise, keep sharing the content, guys. Thank you so much for the support, the likes, the subscriptions, and just everything.
Subscribe.
So please, and just share the message on, and Otherwise, take care. Keep the love and energy, that good energy around, because we need it more than anything, especially during these times of just desperation and uncertainty about a whole lot of things. So peace.